in 2002 to 2005. I graduated here in 2005. I have a lot of names, nicknames. Big Baby, I don't know where I got that one from. Mender, that was my name in radio when I worked in radio. Blindfeld, that was my comic stage name. The Miracle, I mean, so many, it just keeps going on, so I have a ton of nicknames. Kind of give you a brief history of who I am. Back when I was 7, I lost my eyesight. I had 20/20 vision, and I started losing my vision in 1st grade, and I was diagnosed with Stargardt's macular degeneration. So from that point on, I had to learn differently, you know, large print books, books on tape, still stay in the same classes, you know, learned to read, everything else, you know, fought my way through school. Back in 2000, I went to Illinois State for my first 2 years of school, had a great time. Bigger university definitely offers something different, and almost had too good of a time, and then after my sophomore year, I had to kind of figure out what I wanted to do, and I decided I wanted to go into radio broadcasting, and I came to Columbia. They had a great program here, as many of you know, great for majors, so I transferred here in 2002. 2003, I started doing a lot of stand-up comedy, along with interning in radio, and doing a radio show here at Columbia at WCRX. I'm not sure if any of you guys know who Michael Palisak or Hannibal Burris is, but I used to do comedy with them back in the day here in Chicago. You know, it was a fun time, and actually back in 2003, I won a comedy competition between 64 comics here in Chicago, and I was good. I wasn't fantastic, I wasn't as polished as they are now, but I debated moving to LA to pursue being a comedian full-time. And Mark was actually one of the people that talked me out of doing it. He said, listen, get your degree, and then once you get your degree, you can do whatever you want. And so I decided to stay, and I stayed here the next 2 years, continued to do comedy, but I started to shift more towards radio just because as I was winding down in school, more internships, more radio shows, and by the time I went to go graduate, I already had a job here working at a radio station here in Chicago. It's no longer around, but the frequency still is, but the call letters aren't. WCKG. It was an all-talk station, and I was a sports reporter, a producer, and a co-host to the midday show. So that was awesome. And when everyone was graduating school, they were all concerned that, you know, what kind of job am I going to get? Am I going to find a job? Where am I going to live? And I already had a job, and I had an awesome job, and I loved it. About a year after that, they decided to cancel the show that I was on and change the format of the station, and that kind of left me like in the dark. I was nothing because of what I did. I wasn't fired. They just completely changed the image of the station. As many of you know who may go into TV or radio or, you know, even some sort of journalism, sometimes they decide to change the direction of where they want to go with things, and also times ratings play a big part into whether we're going to continue making money or not. So with that, I spent the next 2 years looking for jobs in radio all over the country. Everywhere outside of Chicago basically told me, you have too much experience, or we're afraid you're going to go back to Chicago once something opens up. And then everywhere in Chicago said I didn't have enough experience. They wanted people with like 3 years experience, a track record. So it was like a weird catch-22. So it was very, very frustrating. So in 2008, I decided to start working for a startup sports company here in Chicago. I started covering sports for them and working with athletes, what I'd been used to for my internships at Sporting News and then ESPN Chicago, and then also doing sports for CBS Radio here. So that was fun, but it was a startup, no benefits, contractual work, and it wasn't really taking off. It was a great idea, a great concept, but like a lot of great ideas, it's about execution and sometimes a little bit of luck. So at the end of 2008, I decided to move to Phoenix. My buddy lived down there. He was in his residency. He's like, hey, do you want to come down here, hang out with me, look for jobs out here? So I went down there. I got a job in radio down in Phoenix, working in sports again, being a producer of 2 shows and then covering a few of the sports teams down there. Now, for those of you who've ever been to Phoenix, the one thing that's difficult is there's not really any mass transit. And there wasn't Uber at the time. They've got like one little light rail line that goes through like half the town. And Phoenix is very spread out. Kind of like, it would be like Chicago, Schaumburg, and Naperville. Like that was kind of your range in there for those of you who know it. And then I also got a little bit of homesick, and I wasn't making great money, so I was like, you know what, after about a year I decided to come back. And then I started doing PR and marketing for a life coach back in 2010. Again, it was contractual work. I loved his message, but it was just kind of one of those things where the economy was rough, so everyone was like, oh, we can pay you, but we can't give you benefits. It was like everywhere I went. So again, contractual stuff, and then a UFC company it was a sports agency, they managed UFC fighters. And they came through and they asked me to come on board with them. Again, it was contractual work. However, they were paying me more than the life coach. So I left, and again, it was kind of more in sports. It was pretty cool. I was just doing sponsorship for the athletes, like on their shirts, their hats, their shorts, things of that nature, trying to get them endorsements. It was a good experience, but one thing led to another. It just, again, seemed like kind of bad luck, a bad work environment. They started playing with my money a bit. That's one thing you don't do. And so in 2011, I decided to leave and start my own company. And me and my buddy started a website called Conversection, which was tasteful tales of a typically taboo topic. It was a social network for people to go on there and share sex tips, sex questions, dating tips, dating questions. We had a dating coach on there. It was a great idea. What we were trying to do was open communication, because here's something that everyone dates, everyone has sex, but like, where do we go? And sometimes we don't feel comfortable going to a friend or a family member or talking about these topics with people that are close to us. So we want to create a forum for people to go share things and get advice and ideas. And it was a great concept. We struggled to raise the money. Again, struggled with a little bit of execution, but by the time we shut it down in 2013, towards the end of 2013, or maybe it was 2014, I don't know, I'm losing my mind. We had like just close to 40,000 users. So something where we might look at it and say, yeah, it didn't succeed, and we didn't hit it big like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. It wasn't like we didn't get it off the ground. I mean, we did something. We had users. We had a database. Through that, though, I had to file for bankruptcy. I put my money into it, a lot of it, and it was my baby, and that's fine. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't have a mortgage. I was living in the city at the time, in River North and the South Loop throughout that time, so it was what it was, but kind of like falling on hard times. And then after that, I decided to just go back to work and get a job, just like a steady paying job, benefits, things like that, work for the man, quote unquote. But it's tough, as many of you are here at Columbia. We're creative, we're characters, we have personalities, and that doesn't work well in the corporate America world, where they just want you to get stuff done and send out emails. And so I started doing data entry, and I was using 2 computers and also my vision machine, so I was looking at 3 monitors a day. And about 5 months into it, my vision started getting worse. And so I went to the eye doctor, and he confirmed what I was seeing, that my vision was getting worse, and they thought they misdiagnosed me, that I didn't actually have Stargardt's, I had something else, and the something else that I had could mean that I would go completely blind, which I never anticipated. Like, I always knew I couldn't drive, but I didn't know that I would ever go completely blind, because I can walk around, I can get from point A to point B, I can't read a menu, but I can, there's little things. Like, I'd accepted that, so that was kind of tough. And then I realized, like, I wasn't making great money, but I was making a paycheck, and I wasn't good at my job. That's another thing. They hired me. I could do the job, but my production level was half of everyone else, just because I can't see. I can't see the full screen, and with the magnification software and everything else, I'm just slower. There's no way I could keep up. And I was fine with that, but it also was a little bit demoralizing. Like, I didn't want to take from them. I was feeling a little animosity, so I decided to leave. And from that point in time, I I was like, you know what, if I'm going to lose my eyesight and go completely blind, there's a few things I want to do. There's a few things I want to do in my life before I lose my eyesight, so I can be comfortable with it. And one of them was go, see parts of the world that I wanted to see. So I went over to Europe last summer. Went to Spain, Italy, France, Costa Rica, Mexico, just a few different places. Hit it up, a bunch of different states last year. But I also used that time to figure out and kind of work into things. Is they declare me as someone with a handicap or a disability. I hate those words. Like, I'm not. Like, I'm legally blind, that's true. Or visually impaired, that's true. But handicap or disabled, I don't like those words. And so it was at that point in time I started to focus on my abilities. What are my abilities? If I lose my eyesight, what am I good enough at to still then be successful in life? To still be a good, outstanding member of society, but also sit there and feel rewarded. And that's when it dawned on me, like, I've done comedy, I've worked on radio, I've done speeches before, like, why not be a motivational speaker and a life coach? I love sports, I like helping people out. I'm not out there to be rich, but I want to help people, because for sometimes as bad as or as hard as my life has been, the one thing that's been the most relevant to me is the fact that life has been great, and I'm very happy in life. And at the end of the day, like, life has offered me a lot of great experiences throughout the time. So, that's the first thing I want to talk to you guys is moving forward. And it doesn't matter if you have anything wrong with you or not, but it's little simple things. Now that I've gotten certified to be a life coach and I'm doing the motivational speaking, is to start to focus on your abilities. Case in point, today I'm sitting here getting ready to come speak to you guys, and I'm ironing my shirt. I don't know how good or bad it looks, but I'm terrible at it. Like, I was making it worse than I was better. So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, I need to find a girl that loves to iron. I don't mind cleaning, do the dishes, I'll clean the bathroom, laundry, whatever, but ironing is not my thing. And the same thing goes for, like, different areas in life. So start to figure out as you get older, like, what are your abilities? Not just in the workplace, not just in your career, but also in relationships. Because once you start to figure out what your abilities are and what your strengths are, play to those strengths. Because there's no point in sitting there and trying to do something that you're not good at. It's going to become frustrating. It's going to become aggravating. You're not going to feel good about it. And the one thing is when we're doing something that we're strong at, we feel good, we feel confident, we feel rewarded. And so that's something that when I was starting to lose my vision again and not knowing when it is going to completely go, I was like, what are my abilities? I have my mind, I have my mouth, I have my ears, and I have my heart, and I have my creativeness to help people out. Because that's what life coaching is sitting there in a co-creative environment and working with someone to help come up with a solution, to help come up with an action plan. Just like in normal coaching in sports, the coach can't go out there and take the shot for you, or do the homework for you, or do the work for you, but they can put you in the best position to succeed in life. And given my background in life, all the different things I've done, I've had a lot of successes, I've had a lot of failures. I know what works, and I know what doesn't work. So that's why I was like, life coaching and speaking, that's what I should focus on. And just as you guys start to move forward, like, start to think, like, as you go through your career, I know a lot of you said you were sophomores or juniors, what are your strengths? What are your strengths in life? What are your strong suits? And what are you not good at? In case in point, if any of you ever start your own company or you're building your own team at work, you want to, just like in a sports team, you want to build a team where, like, okay, to complement your strong suits. You got someone who's a scorer, someone who's a rebounder, someone who's good at passing. You want to have everyone complement one another. So it's something to start to think about as you move forward, is looking at ways to focus on not only your abilities, but other people's abilities and how their abilities can complement you in life. This is one way that we can sit there and help ourselves become more successful in life. But along with ability is attitude. a really good attitude in my life. And trust me, attitude is not just something that I learned or I have. It's taken years of practice. At the end of the day, I do feel very fortunate because God's given me enough to like see what I'm missing, but also see what I should be grateful for. So I have been grateful since a very young age in my life. But at the end of the day, like, attitude is something that I've had to work on, because there was a point in time where I was struggling to find a job for 2 years after they got rid of us at CKG, where I didn't have a good attitude. I was bitter. I was like, why me? Like, how come they're not picking me? Like, I know I'm talented. Look at my resume. Listen to my demo tape. I've been on the Howard Stern Show, interviewed Kerry Wood, David Schwimmer, all these people. Like, I had a sick demo tape. You know, and along with my demo tape, I had my comedy reel in there from when I did stand-up. And just constantly, just like, no response, no response, no response. So I had a terrible attitude. It wasn't like, oh, happy-go-lucky. And that's another thing, too, is like, I realized one point in my life that happiness is a choice. We choose to be happy. It's really easy for me to sit there and play the victim, just as we all can. We can sit there and play the victim in life. I go, because it wasn't something that I did. It wasn't like I went out drinking one night, got behind the wheel of a car, and got in a car accident, and lost my eyesight. It wasn't like I was shooting up heroin and, you know, woke up in the hospital and didn't know what happened. There was nothing that I did to cause my vision loss. So I wasn't about to play the victim, because I realized happiness is a choice. And I'm not talking those fake happy people that are happy all the time. Like, I'm going to sit here, I mean, I'm going to motivate you, I'm going to inspire you, I'm going to coach you, that's fine. But I'm also not going to lie to you and be like, oh, you can be happy all the time. Because I get aggravated still to this day. A great example is like when I go to Starbucks. Like, one of the biggest things that frustrates me is when I hold the door open for someone and they don't say thank you. And like, it just drives me crazy, and I want to be like, you're welcome. So again, it's a choice that we have, but at the end of the day, you know, life isn't easy for me. But happiness is a choice. Like, we choose to play the victim. We choose to be moody. We choose to be upset. That's a choice. So that's something you start to think about when you're sitting there and maybe you're struggling in a class or you're having a tough time in a relationship. But like, your attitude is your choice. And you can sit there and let it affect you for a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's just like going to the gym. It's a choice. Or having a healthy diet. It's a choice. So we choose to be happy. And one thing I want to talk about in terms of attitude is mood setters. Now, have you guys ever set the mood in here? Anybody? Like, case in point, let's say either one of the blanks. Have you guys ever set the mood for a date before?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, good. Give me an idea of what you guys did to set the mood.
I guess it depends on the situation, but if I was like making dinner for a girl or something, I guess I'd put some candles out, set the dishes out, and I don't know, make the place look presentable. Okay.
You know, maybe a little candles, you know, dinner, wine, everything. Nice. You know, I get it. So you set the mood. What about you, Blake?
I don't know, turn on some music, ask if they want something to drink, and then just talk.
Okay. So again, same thing, set the mood.
Don't be uncomfortable, that's the real thing.
In terms of what? Oh, just when you
like,
set the mood?
Hey, hi, be happy, you know, happy to see them.
Oh, exactly. As soon as they walk in, you know, embrace them, you know, tell them they look nice, compliment them, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, the same thing goes for our daily life. And I find this funny or ironic that we, self-included, will sit there and go out of our way to set the mood for a date or for someone else. But how often do we set the mood for ourselves? Does anyone set the mood for themselves in here?
Sure.
Give me an example.
I mean, I don't know, you don't take yourself on dates, but like when you're relaxing, when you're relaxing in your house, like if I'm ready to like just chill, I like turn on my Christmas lights, burn an incense, play some Jill Scott, and I set the mood to like do homework or something. You know?
Perfect. Great example. Setting the mood in our own daily lives is such a big thing. Too many times in life I run into friends or clients or people that before their day even starts, their mood or attitude is ruined by looking at their calendar or their schedule. Ah, I have 5 meetings tomorrow. I am not like, they're just, again, it's a choice, but they're being crabby because they look at their day. But little simple things like, that's a great way to like set the mood at the end of the night or when you get home from work. But what about to start the day? Little things, meal preparation. A lot of people like to prepare their meals in a week in advance so they don't have to come home at night after work, sit there and cook. Laying out clothes the night before. As dumb as it sounds, my mom used to make us do it all the time growing up and I hated it, but it makes sense. Because I like to hit the snooze button in the morning and the last thing I want to do is try and figure out what I'm going to wear. And especially being blind, like, fashion is not, I'm not good at it, so I should probably take time the night before. But even little things like, if you like to work out in the morning, have a cup of coffee in the morning. If you know you're always running late, set your alarm clock, a little bit earlier. We can do different things in our own life to set the mood for each day. And maybe you get up and meditate. Maybe you take a longer shower and just sit there and listen to music. It doesn't matter what you do to set the mood, but if you're willing to do stuff for other people, why wouldn't you do that same act for yourself? And again, we're all different. That's what makes us beautiful and wonderful, but figure out what you like to do to set the mood for your day, to make yourself successful, happy, set the attitude, set the tone for the day. Because we can't predict in between those 5 meetings or those 2 midterms and that paper that's due, we can't predict what's going to happen in between, but what we can control is what we did that morning or the night before to set ourselves up for success the next day. And also to have the right mindset to handle anything that comes up unexpectedly and stay calm and in control. So that's attitude. And that's something, again, like I said, it's not something that it just happens. Some of us are happier than others, but I'm sure we all know someone out there who's just like always negative, like, what a day. Like you call them and every time they're always like, you don't understand. And that's not fun. You don't want to be around, like we all get to be that way every once in a while, but every day, like that's draining. That's no fun. So now that we have our ability and our attitude, I want to talk about community and relationships. So, being legally blind, obviously, like I said, there's certain things I can't do. Driving is one of them. So I rely on people to take me places, If we're going somewhere, someone's got to pick up Mendenhall. They know that. I mean, sure, I offer them gas money or buy the beer or whatever, but I can't get there on my own. And now, granted, there are Ubers now and cabs, but oftentimes we're going in a place together. Also, the grocery store. I can go there. I can walk around. I can find certain items, or I can ask for help. But at the end of the day, there's not going to be an employee who's going to sit there and do all my grocery shopping with me. So I rely on friends to go with me to the store and help me find like what I'm looking for, and also tell me like what's on sale because I can't see the sale prices. So I've been a big advocate of relying on my community and my network that I've built up around me over the years. And now granted, I just don't take for them. I like to think that I offer them something back, and I think part of it is the positive attitude, part of it is just my fun-loving spirit. But community has been such a foundation to my success that I have had in life in being able to support me and help me out where I'm weak. I like to think that I help them out where they're weak, but they definitely help me out in the things that I struggle with. So this is something too, just in any life, you don't have to be disabled, and you don't have to have 200 people strong or 20 people strong in your community or in your life, but having a solid group of friends or people in your life that you can count on. Like I always say, like, again, it's about building a team. Like if you're going to coach someone up, like, what's your dream team? Like you should have someone that you can go to for like great advice about anything. You should have someone that you go to for fun. Like someone's like, oh, I know they'll always want to have fun. Someone you can go to that's going to like spark your creativity. you'll start to think about having people in your life, and maybe one person offers a variety of that, but start to build up a community around you. Because there was also a time too, throughout my struggles, especially when I had to file for bankruptcy, that like, I became depressed. And I just let go of everyone. And that was the dumbest thing I could have ever done. I didn't want to like tell people, because everyone on Facebook was like posting pictures of their kids or like their new houses or vacations they were taking, and here I am, like my website just failed, I'm filing for bankruptcy, and I just felt defeated, deflated. And the worst thing I could have ever done was cut the people out in my life who were there to like encourage me, like give me reassurance, like build me back up, because they weren't going to let me fall. But the only way I would fall is if I don't allow them into my lives, which I didn't for a while. And that's how I got back up, is because I started reaching out to that community. So community is very important. And as you start to like move forward in your life, relationships are a big thing. Has everyone here been in a relationship? No? No one has? Okay. I was going to say, I'm like, man, college is different these days. I mean, I know there's Tinder out there and everything's real casual these days, but I mean, wow. So you start to move forward in relationships, communication is key. Communication is so important with not just two people in a relationship romantically, but also at work, at school, living together. Communication is key towards success. And as you start to get older and you start to graduate and you start to get your jobs after college, you're going to start to hear about your wealth portfolio. And do any of you guys know what a wealth portfolio is? No. So a wealth portfolio is basically simple. So let's say you have, just to use round numbers, like $100 after you pay off everything at the end of the month to invest, whether it be save, invest in a stock, whatever. It doesn't matter. So what they're going to tell you to do is break that $100 up. And that's why they always talk in the sense of like you'll put some in a CD, some in the savings account, some in the stock market. And that's what a lot of times what mutual funds are, is they're just taking a big chunk of money and investing it in a bunch of different stocks. So if anything crashes, you're left with a little something left over. So if the stock market crashes, you still have money in savings, and you also have something invested in a CD that's growing interest. And then at the same time too, like if you own a house, when the housing market crashed, hopefully people had their mutual funds or 401ks, a savings account, not just all their money in their house, because then they would have lost all the value. So it makes sense. So instead of your wealth portfolio, one thing you should start to do as you start to grow older is start to figure out, what does my life portfolio look like? Because too many times I've seen where people get into relationships and they invest that $100 of their life, not actual money, but like life energy, into that relationship. And then when that relationship fails, they have nothing. Same thing goes for work. People put that $100 of life into work. And if you're like me, and that job gets taken out from underneath you, you've nothing. So what do you want to do as you start to grow older, and you start to get in relationships, or you start working out there and starting your careers, is think of your wealth portfolio as a life portfolio. And invest time in your life in different things. Now granted, maybe 80 of those $100 is invested in work. And then 15 of that remaining 100 is invested in a relationship. And the other 5% is invested in, say, sports. You love playing sports, softball, golf, whatever. But try and diversify time in your life. Don't put it all in one basket, because we can't control things that happen in our lives. And if we lose those things, then we have nothing. And that's not a good feeling to feel, is when we feel like we have nothing. And then this way, if something happens either in a relationship or at work or in our active life, let's say we love to work out, or we love running marathons or 5Ks, and God forbid something happens where we can't run anymore, we feel deflated. Well, then you have your friends and you have work to build you up, and then you can reinvest that energy in your life later into something else. And that's something I see, again, too many times in life. People invest all into a relationship or all into a career, and when those things leave, they have nothing. And that's not a good place to be. Leave yourself some wiggle room. Leave yourself something to fall back on in case something does happen. Now, I know it's different. You know, when we first start a job or when we first start a relationship, at the job we want to impress people, we want to prove ourselves, so we're there a lot more. And also in a relationship, it's always usually like the first 3 or 4 months, it's like, gaga, you can't get enough of them, and it's wonderful and everything's fantastic. But after that kind of slows down, like, make sure you're spreading yourself out. Make sure you're doing the things that you enjoy doing outside of work and outside of relationships, and spending time with family and loved ones. Because that's important moving forward in building a community and maintaining relationships in life. Very important. Next, I want to talk to you guys about vision. So even though I'm legally blind, what I lack in eyesight, I make up for in vision. So before I even knew really about, you know, visualization and, you know, the power of positive thinking, and I don't know if any of you ever heard of the book The Secret, which is a fantastic book. I highly recommend reading it, and there's also a documentary on Netflix. I was writing things down and looking at every day when I was in college about stand-up, about graduating, about getting a job in radio, about weight loss. And it was printed out in big bold letters because I'm blind, and it was pasted to my bedroom door. And every day before I left, I would read the things that I was trying to achieve. And then it was years later when I realized, like, because I looked at that every day, I was visualizing. Like, I put a spot on the map where I wanted to go, and I didn't know how to get there. But because I knew I was going to get there, I started to see the paths on how to get there, and those doors open up. And if you believe, if you send a thought or something out in the universe, if you ask the universe for something, it's going to give you the answer. It may not give you the answer today or tomorrow, but it's going to give you what you ask it for. But you have to be listening when you send it out. So start to try visualizing where you want to go in life. You know, I had you guys write down where you want to be in 5 years, and maybe you don't know, and that's fine. You don't have to know today. If you do, great. If you don't, you're going to start to figure it out over the next few years as you get closer to graduation, and start to visualize, like, where do I want to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Write it down. Put it somewhere that you can take a look at it. Because the more you think about it, the more you're going to start to, like, connect the dots in your own head and in life on how to get there. Because when I decided to start my own company, I literally made a vision board. And that vision board helped us accomplish everything we needed to get other than the funding that we needed to continue on. But we got it up. We built the website. We got it built. We got investors on board. We made our dreams a reality because we mapped it out. We put it down on a piece of paper. We stared at it every day. Start to visualize. Everywhere I've ever gotten in life, winning a stand-up comedy competition, being on the Howard Stern Show, being on the field for sporting events, starting my own company, meeting a bunch of different famous comedians, Jim Gaffigan, Frank Caliendo, like interviewing them on the radio in person, thinking about all the different guests I wanted to book on our show, not letting anything stop me from finding that guest to get them on the show. Because I put that thought not only in my head, but out in the universe. And it's really helped me. So like I said, what I lack in eyesight, I make up for in vision. So as you start to move forward in life, start to visualize where you want to go, where you want to be. Here's the tricky part about visions. You might have a vision with someone else. A little bit more tricky because that's where communication comes into play. So you can control the vision of your own life, but if you and a partner in a relationship don't share a similar vision, it's not because it's your fault. It's just, it's hard, unless you're sharing a vision, it's hard to get that vision to come true. Like, oh, I want to be married a year after college and have kids and have a house. Well, if your partner doesn't share that vision and they want to travel for a year, and then they want to, start working and then live in the city for 5 years, that vision's not going to come true because two different people share two different visions. So at that point, you got to recalculate things. Think if it's worth your while. Is it worth investing your time? Can you guys come to a compromise? So that's one tricky part about visions is, everyone always asks, well, what if I share a vision with someone else? Well, it's a little bit out of your control there then. Because you can visualize who you want to be with in life and send it out in the universe. If you narrow it down, like I'd like to date someone who's 5'10", dark hair, plays in a band, eventually that person's going to come through your life and you're like, oh, that's him. But you can't force someone to be who they aren't if you're with them at this point in time. You can't force someone to want to have kids if one day they never want to have kids. So that's something to think about. And finally, I want to tell you guys what being blind means to me. Because I told you guys in the beginning that I'm legally blind, and I never liked the word like handicap or disabled or special needs. But I decided a few years ago that I wanted to make blind something positive, kind of go back to that attitude that we talked about earlier. So being blind means this to me. B stands for believe. Believe in yourself. There might be other people out there in the world that are going to believe in you, but if you first don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to believe in you. Whether that be in a job, whether that be in a relationship, believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, who is? L stands for love. Love yourself. Again, same concept as believe. Love yourself. If you can't love yourself, others will love you, but how can you expect someone else to love you if you don't first love yourself? And trust me, I'm not rocking out anything amazing here. I'm bald, I'm blind, I got a belly, I got back hair, but I believe in myself. I love myself because I'm confident and secure in who I am. It took a lot of years, just like the attitude, but I actually do like and love who I am here today. I stands for intuition. Now, my great example of this is, have any of you ever had a friend, family member, or even yourself who's like, I think they're cheating on me. I'm going to check their email or their phone. Yeah? And what do they say once they checked it? They what?
They were right.
Every time. No one has ever come back to me and said, I feel so guilty. They're not doing anything. Your intuition was telling you that something's not right. Your intuition was telling you that something was going on in the relationship, but you needed validation, or we need validation. And the reality of the situation is, why would we lie to ourselves? Why would our intuition steer us the wrong way? Our intuition only deals in facts. So as you move forward in life, start to listen to your intuition. If your gut is telling you something, that's fine if you need validation, but you're probably 99.9% of the time right. Your intuition's not going to steer you incorrectly. Whether it be for an audition, again, a job interview, moving to a different city, a relationship, going out the night before a test, listen to your intuition. It's not going to steer you the wrong way. N stands for now. Stay in the moment. Too often in life, we look in the past, or we look at forward. You're like, oh, finals are coming out. Mark's paper's due. If I'm not working on the final edits. See, right? You guys are all sitting here tonight like, we thought he was going to talk about the paper. But at the end of the day, stay in the moment. Because that's something we can't get back. We can't go back and change the past, and we can't control the future. The only thing we can control is the here and the now. So if you're out with friends or you're with family, stay in the moment with them. Don't sit there and Instagram it out like the entire time. Take a picture, wait till you're alone, post it to Instagram then. And we've all been there before with friends where like every 2 seconds, like, oh, hold on 1 second. Oh, okay. It's like we felt insignificant. And that's so fun. So stay in the moment, stay in the now, stay present to wherever you are in life. Especially when you're on vacation. I'll tell you guys that right now. Turn your phones off on vacation. That's fun. And then D stands for determination. You know, I talked a lot about tonight about attitude, ability, and vision, but determination is what's gotten me through most everything in life. Is I'm determined. So many people tell me all the things I can't do. They make a list and point out all the things that I would struggle with, or that he's not going to be able to do this one day, or he's going to struggle with this, or people try and steer me, when I was going to school, they're like, oh, do you really want to go into this field? Maybe it's not the best idea. You should go work with other people in the government that also have disabilities. And I was like, what? Like, that's just promoting the problem. Like, we're just all go work in social services, and that's no fun. I'm determined. I'm determined to achieve and get everything I want out of life. Now, there's still visions that I had when I sat in this same classroom as you guys that I have not achieved yet. And one of those is winning an Oscar for a screenplay. I'll share that with you guys tonight. It's winning an Oscar. But I'm still determined. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm still determined to achieve that goal one day. And I am determined that it will happen. Because that's just how much I believe in myself, how much I love myself, how much I trust myself that it will happen, and that I will stay in the moments as they come, and that I'm determined. So if you believe in yourself, you love yourself, you trust yourself, you stay in the moment, and you're determined, you are going to be a better person at anything you do in life. It's a great tool to have. So I want you guys to look at that blank side of the sheet of paper, and I want you guys to write down 3 letters. Y-O-U. So everything on the other side of the sheet of paper that you wrote down, you are the one who's in control of whether or not those become reality one day in your life. No one else. Things might occur in life that might slow it down. Again, maybe someone in our family gets sick and we have to go take care of them. Maybe something happens unexpectedly where it gets delayed a little bit. But at the end of the day, the only person we have to blame ourselves if we don't achieve the goals that we set out for ourselves is ourselves. You control your own destiny. You control your own future. You control where you want to live. You control how much money you want to make. You control the relationships you're going to be in. So as you start to move forward in your own life, realize that you need to take accountability for what you're achieving. And that you have the potential to do anything you want in this world, to be in any relationship you want, to get any grade you want. And that's why my website is called grabyourpotential.com. Very catchy, I know. But start to realize that. And again, if you didn't write down all the things because you weren't sure earlier, that's fine. You guys are still young, you have time. But I've given you guys some tools and ideas and concepts that you can use in your everyday life to help you maintain and also become more successful in any venture you decide to go into. So with that, I want to thank you. Mark, perfect timing.
Right, thank you much.
And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to open it up because I'm sure he's still getting ready.
A lot of what Ryan talked to you about tonight, we'll be going over a little bit more in depth, especially when we start talking about relationships. We start looking at how your attitude will affect your relationships, how you're planning and how you're careful setting of goals comes into it, because so often with relationships we just kind of play the helter-skelter. It's like the chemistry goes off and you kind of follow it and that's it, but there's no real rhyme or reason to how we date and what we date and who we date. And that's why a lot of times we get in dangerous relationships. So just like everything else, have a vision for what kind of partner you want. Actually do some specifications. In a couple of weeks when we go over family relationships, I'm actually going to give you guys a spec sheet where you can actually put down your specifications, and then not only put down specifications of what you're looking for in a partner, but then group them by what's important. So when you start dating and you have 3-4 dates, by the end of 3-4 dates, you should have a pretty good idea, like, yes, this person has those qualities, or no, they don't. And if they don't have those qualities, I don't care how much fun you're having boogieing. because you know you're just heading into a dead end. I will warn you though, that lecture, that session has been the cause of many a breakup. Because we have had people take that questionnaire and also give it to their partners, and after they sat down and had a little conversation, we realized that they weren't fulfilling any of the important stuff. They were just comfortable being in a relationship. It was physical, it was fun, it was wonderful, but when you really got down to the meat and potatoes, it just wasn't there. The things that were important to each partner, the other person just wasn't fulfilling, so a lot of folks broke up, which I don't apologize for. I'd rather see you guys break up now before kids and other kind of crazy commitments come in. Also, a lot of what Ryan talked about, we'll cover again when we start talking a little bit more about stress management.
I'm also a firm believer that no one should get married before the age of 30 unless they live in a small town and they're both extremely religious. It's not a stereotype, it's just the truth. The divorce rate's through the roof. And I also don't think you should be in a serious committed relationship in college, but that's 2 cents. You can date, but you're too young to be in a serious relationship.
Here, I agree.
Thank you, sir. You taught me that.
Yes, indeed.
So, well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.